All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. First, for those of you who do not know, well, let's make certain I'm advancing. TOPO is a research and advisory firm. We work with some of the world's best companies, and our focus is how do we drive repeatable and scalable growth. Within that, I focus on marketing and account-based specifically, and that's my area of focus. I've been doing it for about 2.5 years now, exclusively focused at TOPO. And prior to that, spent about a decade in B2B marketing and had that account-based bug bite me. So it's a topic that's been near and dear to me for quite some time. Before I get started on the measurement side specifically, I want to take just a couple minutes and give some background on what we see as the definition of and some key practices within account-based. It just helps to make certain that we're all on the same page as we talk about what the measurement model is that we use, making certain that everyone knows this is the perspective we're coming from is a good foundation. So first, I want to give a quick definition of account-based. We see account-based as a coordination of delivering valuable and personalized experiences across multiple portions of the organization in order to drive engagement and conversion at targeted accounts. Now, today, our focus is driving that engagement and conversion at targeted accounts and how we ensure that our measurement is based around that. That's one of the key characteristics we actually look for. The other key characteristic I want to make certain I highlight before we dive into measurement specifically is one of the ways we do that is we do it by working together across the organization. These are accounts that we've all agreed that we want to progress, that these represent more value to our organization. And that sets us up for why we need a new approach to measuring our results, why the old approach doesn't really work here. First, our goal is to move accounts forward. So we need the measurement that we have to be account-centric in nature. We need to be looking at the accounts that we've moved forward, not just the leads that we've moved forward. Second, the way we've measured, particularly as marketers for quite some time, is about handoff. Everything goes through the MQL. Everything goes through a marketing stage. But we just said that we're doing this together. Let's say in an acquisition environment, marketing and sales development are working together in order to progress and pursue and change outcomes with a set of accounts we all agreed to. There's not a handoff in that. There's oftentimes not a lead created. There's almost certainly not an MQL created as a piece of that in many instances where we still have positive outcomes, where we're still moving those accounts forward. So structuring this around the traditional handoff actually misses a lot of the value that we create as an organization within the accounts we're targeting. And finally, we have something that we didn't have before. We have a strictly defined universe. We know what our entire target market is by name. We know how many and we know who they are. And that actually gives us new metrics that we can use. They give us better insight. It give us a better ability to become predictive in the results that we're going to achieve going forward. So to dive into that, I'm going to give two different pieces here. The first is where we'll spend a little bit more time. What is the model or the framework that allows us to forecast, plan, and measure the outcomes of our account-based strategy? And then the second is giving a little more detail about what I'm going to call kind of the day-to-day management metrics and how do we use the metrics we've had before as well as the metrics that we might need to add now for the day-to-day measurement. So let's start with the overall model here. This is what we call the TOPO account-based measurement model. A couple things that I want to call out here. First, everything that we're measuring is on an account basis. We start with the total number of accounts that we're targeting. Not only those, the subset that have responded or have engaged in some way, but the total universe. We've defined and named every one of them. We know who they all are. That can start as our overall universe. What we're looking to do is we're looking to show that we've moved each one of these accounts further into our process. We've progressed every single one of them, ideally at the end of the day, although that's 100% isn't necessarily the outcome that we expect to see. That's the outcome that we are driving towards. We're not settling for and saying we got 5. No, there's still 995 more to go. What are we going to do to progress the next ones? Okay, that's that motion that we have, and that measuring on an account basis and showing how many of the accounts we've pulled through allows us to take. The next piece I want to point out is these are primary outcomes. This is a pretty limited set of information. It's not enough to drive your day-to-day measurement, your day-to-day management of programs and investments, but it is enough to give you a snapshot of the overall outcomes. There's a big gap between each one of these steps, and it lets us show with a limited number of metrics, a limited amount of information, the overall progress that we've made. How many of those accounts have we meaningfully engaged? I could go into engagement, a topic we'll oftentimes spend a couple hours on with clients, so I obviously won't do that here, but to give you a quick hint, an engaged account is an account that we define as meaningfully engaged with our organization. We want this to be an account where that level of engagement means either we've done something and been pretty successful at it because we now think there's an indicator of interest there, or there's an indicator of interest because of the engagement that's happened organically, and it's time to identify that as a trigger and go do something about it. The next piece that we look at here is how many of those accounts have we created a new opportunity with? And then finally, how many are closed won? On the other piece of this I want to point out is you have to split this between prospect and customer accounts. We need to look at the prospect accounts. Who are we targeting from an acquisition perspective? And we need to look at customer accounts, because at the end of the day, we expect very different numbers from our customer accounts. And so if this is a model, not just to measure the outcomes, but to forecast and to plan against, we have to plan separately against our prospect and our customer segments and benchmark and forecast separately what those rates will be. Coming out of that, we have 5 key metrics that we can focus on. First is the account engagement rate, percentage of accounts that are engaged. And one of the questions we had in the agenda or overview of this going in is, where do you start? Account engagement rate is actually not the one you're going to start at. The other 4 metrics here, almost every organization can get to reasonably well directly out of your CRM or with a limited amount of kind of custom reporting and data manipulation relatively easily. That's the percentage of the accounts that we've created a new opportunity with, the percent that we've won, the value of the pipeline created, and the value of the bookings or revenue recognized. Those are all very accessible metrics that most of us can actually get to pretty quickly off of what we have, and they show the value that we're creating for the organization within our target account list and as a result of our target account efforts. So why is it that we are supporting a account-based approach? We're looking here at a traditional demand gen funnel versus a target account process. And what I want to show is the difference in the efficiency or the effectiveness that we have. This creates a really efficient process for us as an organization. I got my start in demand gen way too long ago, and we use numbers of anywhere from 1/4 to about 1.5% of leads would convert into revenue. We've used those numbers for years. In an account-based approach, in contrast, we actually see that the average company is targeting about 1,000 accounts and that they win 11% of their target accounts. When I look at my ability to pick where I'm going to focus as an organization and win more than 1 out of every 10 accounts that I named, that gives me new possibilities as an organization to pick my area of focus, to name ahead of time where I'm going to win, to focus on a smaller set of higher value, better fit accounts, and still have that be a formula for growth as an organization. That's what this lets you do. The numbers you see here are from our benchmark. This is a survey we fielded in Q4 of last year. The results were released in Q1, just within the last month or so. And those results show that people are opening opportunities in 21% of the accounts that they target. And again, closing business with 11% of the accounts that they target. So those are top line metrics. That doesn't actually get us to how am I doing this week? How am I doing this month in progressing against those metrics that I have as my overall roll-up metrics? We have to be able to answer some different questions. We have to know why we're missing, why we're exceeding, how we can use that to repeat that performance and that benefit. And so we have our traditional channel metrics, our traditional activity metrics. They're often not enough. We actually need to take the same approach we just outlined, converting our metrics to an account-centric approach, and we need to adopt that account-centric approach through more of the metrics that we have. So here's an example of some of the additional metrics that we frequently will see marketers adopt. First, I have a target account list. How many of those accounts am I actually in a position to actively pursue? The answer might not be quite all of them. It might be that there's certain ones that we can't identify the right contacts for, that we don't have enough information about competitive solutions or complementary solutions that they're using. We just have some more research to do on some of these accounts in some instances. Second, we don't always actually go after and pursue every one of those accounts. We talk about account selection, the process of choosing which accounts I'm pursuing and when. And for a company that's targeting 1,000 accounts, they're oftentimes only pursuing a quarter to a third of those accounts at any given point in time. And so we look at that, what portion of the ones that we have named overall are we actively pursuing at a given point in time? Well, if I'm talking about a planning process, I had an idea as to what that number might be. If I end up being able to target significantly fewer than I plan to, that would be one of the drivers of having fewer accounts that we created new opportunities with. So this lets us go back up through our process and look at some of the metrics and some of the outcomes on an account basis. In addition, you can take almost any metric that you use as a marketer. Sometimes you have to add some new technology over the top. You can take almost anything you use as a marketer and recast it as an account-based metric. For instance, how many website visitors do you get? How many website visitors do you get that you can identify as coming from a target account? How is that number trending as an overall and as a percent of your total traffic? We can take almost any number that we use as marketers today and recut and recast that number specifically within our target accounts, in addition to some new metrics that we can use similar to what I have here on screen. Now, I imagine in an audience like this, there's a number of you that are also responsible for or directly involved with your sales development team. So we can take a very similar approach with sales development. Not only do we have our traditional activity metrics, but how well are we progressing through our sales development efforts, each one of our target accounts? Sales development is oftentimes being measured here against the ability to create opportunities with those accounts or get to at least that initial meeting, qualified meeting with sales. But what portion of the accounts are we actually able to get a positive connection with? Which ones are we able to have that initial qualification call with? These are gates that we have to pass through in order to get to that opportunity outcome. And so we can start to see, are we getting to those micro outcomes consistently enough and early enough to hit our overall objectives? These, similar to the ones before our marketing, give us a way to see how are we doing on progressing towards our goal, give us those early indicators of success, oftentimes used within the team instead of rolled up more broadly across the organization, but critical in the day-to-day management within the marketing and sales development teams. So with that, a couple takeaways. First, the account-based measurement model gives you an account-centric approach that doesn't rely on the handoff, and it introduces a series of new metrics that give us better insights. Using that, we can move our planning, our forecasting, our benchmarking to an account basis to say, if I've been able to target 1,000 accounts, spending X dollars per account, and now I'm going to move to $1,500 accounts, keeping my spend per account the same. What does that actually look like in terms of an expected level of outcome? What does it look like if I'm going to expand the target account list, but not increase the total spend? Now I'm spending less. I can go back through my data and say, what's happened on the accounts that are not getting as much investment? And what do I now expect my opportunity rate or my account win rates to be relative to what they've been before? And we'll do that in part by using 5 metrics that we may not have been using to date: the account engagement rate, opportunity rate, account win rate, the percentage of the total target accounts that we win in a given period of time, the pipeline that we create, and the bookings that we drive within those target accounts. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over here to Mr. Eric Martin, and then we'll have time for Q&A as well as additional discussion at the end.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Martin, Senior Director of Demand Generation here at SalesLoft, also a happy partner and customer of TOPO. Just wanted to add that everything that we've done, we're about 2.5 years into our account-based journey, and Eric specifically from TOPO has been the sage that's kind of guided us through this journey. So really privileged to be able to be here today and to speak with you and share you a little bit more about what we've been up to here from the portfolio company perspective. Just going to start a little bit, just one slide on kind of set up who I am, where I've been here at SalesLoft. I joined SalesLoft in September of 2016, walked into a rapidly growing SaaS company with an amazing product market fit. The sales engagement space, as you know, has been particularly hot. And I walked into a marketing engine that was, a very traditional inbound marketing engine, one that was pretty efficient, but was really struggling to expand past that core market of kind of companies like us, smaller. At the time, we were a smaller SaaS organization, rapidly growing, and that's kind of how we, as a company, started our growth, was by serving other customers that were like us. But either way, great place to land. SalesLoft has an unbelievably supportive culture, strong core values. Recently voted the #1 best place to work in Atlanta for the 2nd year in a row. So definitely very privileged to be able to work at such a supportive organization with a great product market fit. And you'd think that walking into an organization like this would be easy for a marketer, right? You walk into a fairly efficient inbound engine, you're like, sweet, this is a great place to be. My life's going to be easy. Well, I can tell you that that's definitely the initial reaction, but there's a lot of challenge in joining an organization that's so rapidly growing, as you have very, very high expectations to live up to. And so there was a very high, kind of inbound lead flow, but we wanted better quality, not just the quantity that we were experiencing. And so we needed to head up market. The challenge was, how do we go up market? How do we serve larger organizations? And the answer was to use, augment our existing inbound function, not get rid of it, revamp it, make it more efficient, but augment it with a more outbound, supportive account-based model that would help us move up into the enterprise. So as I said before, we've been on this account-based journey for about 2.5 years. So, but overall, the way that I've always viewed account-based, and it's a very unsexy definition, but I think one that's particularly important to a marketing organization is that you want to not waste your marketing dollars. You want to not waste your marketing effort. It's very easy to go down the rabbit hole and do this and wait for the big campaign results to come rolling in, and then you see that 0.25, 1.5% conversion rate that Eric was speaking about. That's not particularly rewarding, and we know that as marketers we can do better. And so, but account base is a big bet. It's something that it's a multi-year bet. It's strategic, top-down initiative, ideally, that involves both top-down coordination and bottom-up coordination. So after investing all this time and money and resources, how do you actually know whether it's working or not? And that's a challenge that we are continuously revisiting. It's just like any other kind of revenue organization. You're going to go in there and you're going to want to see, is my marketing efficiency good? Is my sales pipeline forecasting working? Are you getting better at what you need to do? And so that's the question I want to look at today. Just a brief history of kind of where we were in developing account-based. In the beginning, a lot of people like to jump straight to account selection, but one of the most important things to do for developing an account-based practice is actually construct that total addressable market estimate. So sizing out that market and really beginning to get a clear understanding. And marketing as a part of the organization leading this is incredibly critical. Not our friends in sales, not our friends in finance. Collaborate with them, support them in what they're trying to do, but marketing should really be the guiding light and the beacon for what are the markets we should enter, how big's our market, and how do we segment that market accordingly. So looking at a couple of factors, what are the customers that I have today, and what would it look like if I found all the other organizations like that, and just basic, and also challenging the assumptions that you might have. If you walk into an organization and ask, the marketing person, the sales person, and the finance person, what's your ICP, you're probably going to get 3 different answers. But the beautiful thing about account-based is going through that total addressable market and that market sizing effort, that allows you to move away from this kind of nebulous definition of ideal client or customer profile and move toward that defined universe. And I think that defined universe is just establishing that as an accomplishment in itself, and is a big milestone in account-based development. So at the end of 2016, executing that analysis from that total addressable market and market sizing analysis, generating the account list. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but won't dig it too far into those. But account selection is that kind of continuous process that you go through. So every, it might be, you might want to update that target account list every quarter or so in the beginning, eventually moving to a cadence of 6 months, and eventually maybe even moving beyond that to a point where we can truly, over the course of a fiscal year, look at our penetration through key market segments and our growth in those segments. But either way, getting off the ground in 2017 with getting that account selection process going and beginning the execution of those coordinated sales and marketing plays, aka orchestration. Orchestration's a big topic now, as most people are, not most, many people are kind of testing the waters with account-based. And really the rubber hits the road with account-based once you start developing detailed orchestration plans. So that means marketing's menu of programs that sales has to be able to execute their plays, across a number of channels. For us, SalesLoft, one of the beautiful things about SalesLoft is having SalesLoft at our disposal. So that's been really helpful from a standpoint of activating our SDR team, which has been our closest point of collaboration, and I believe should be your first point of collaboration when deploying account-based. And then you move into the other parts of the sales organization. But, all this condensed into one, you're probably not going to begin to know at all if it's working or not until you get pretty much into that orchestration and scaling phase. Just sizing out your market, just selecting your accounts and beginning those activities, that's great to start, but you're probably not going to find any kind of meaningful insight about where you are or where you need to be until you actually start scaling those efforts, activating, not only one-off account programs, but more programmatic approaches that enable the sales teams, such as things like that would include video and intent data and other solutions to help them activate different kinds of plays against your target account list. So unfortunately, it's going to take you a couple of years. Maybe TOPO can help with shortening that window of learning. But for us, it's been definitely a labor of love and alignment over many years, and looking forward to improving it moving forward. So these are kind of 3 ways that you'll know when account-based is working. And this is just what I've looked at all the data and all the trends and tried to condense it into these 3 simple aspects of, do I really know that account-based is working? If you can check off all these boxes, you're on the right track. Your work is not done, but you're definitely on the right track to a really humming account-based engine. Number 1, target account pipeline is being generated from coordinated marketing and sales activities. So target account pipeline being one of those key TOPO metrics. Really a lot of the effort coming from sales development, and I think it's important to foster that very close relationship with them. But aligning the accounts that marketing is working so that when sales development works them, for instance, they may have seen an ad, or they may have been to a field marketing event, or they may have been to some other, or been exposed to the SalesLoft brand. Maybe they've seen display advertising. No matter the level of engagement, it's a coordination with that sales development effort in prospecting. So target account pipeline, portion of that, comes from marketing activities, a portion of that comes from sales development. Breaking it down beyond that and getting down to, what's the lever on sales development and marketing to increase that target account pipeline, that's going to vary by organization and business model. But just as long as you're generating that target account pipeline from a combination of account-based marketing and sales activities, you're in good shape. Number 2, marketing is engaging with and influencing contacts both at target accounts and on target account opportunities through multiple campaigns across multiple channels. Okay, so a lot to unpack there, but really the simple thing is you're getting to the right accounts with your ad programs. For instance, let's say you're doing a popular offering like LinkedIn sponsored content. LinkedIn sponsored content has the ability to target by account and by persona, 2 very key variables when you're looking to engage with the right personas at your target accounts. So if you're engaging with people at your target accounts, that's great. If you're engaging with people at your target accounts that are actually on the opportunity, then that's something even more meaningful. And that means that you are running that coordinated sales and marketing orchestration that you need in order to be able to generate that engagement and push that up opportunity through the pipeline quicker. Multiple channels and multiple campaigns, probably a little nice to have in this statement, but I think it's important to have something to really aspire to. It's hard to say that an account's engaged if you've just engaged with one pay-per-click ad, for instance, that you can't say the entire account's engaged, technically. So I think, Eric Whitlake qualified it well by saying meaningful engagement. So establishing that what's that meaningful engagement level. So you've got to understand and define engagement and what it means for your organization. If you skew toward a higher velocity, lower end of the market, that will probably be different than the long enterprise sales cycle style of account-based marketing. And number 3, you are properly aligning marketing resources to the correct account tiers and can effectively measure return on spend. So we were talking before the kickoff of the webinar about efficiency and how efficiency is a hot topic all the time. A lot of marketers have struggled to measure efficiency, but when you can look back and create systems so you can not only align those marketing resources, aka money, to the right accounts, but you can, on the back end, at the end of the quarter or at the end of the fiscal, you can look at the return on spend in these different channels by account and even by account tier. So your tier 1 accounts are getting the more resources per account than a tier 2 or a tier 3 account, and you can determine the marketing return on that investment. That's another success point for knowing that account base is working for you. So these are kind of the big 3 that I wanted to share with folks that have really, I think, demonstrated outside of just the marketing organization to the executive team, to sales, to customer success for both acquisition and expansion programs. If these 3 things are the case, then account base is working for you. Account-based orchestration is something that I wanted to just really hammer into and define a little bit clearer. And really, it's about removing that handoff situation that Erica alluded to earlier, viewing the company-wide account-based engagement throughout the entire buyer's journey. So I don't believe we had the TOPO account funnel in those slides, but really taking all the way from the exposure to the brand, to the opportunity creation, to the renewals and expansion on an account. So looking at the buyer's journey as a whole and saying, where can marketing and sales add value throughout this process? At SalesLoft, we really try to, we know that a lot of the times you're going to, your first step on that buyer's journey is going to be interacting or engaging with, or even just getting an impression of a brand. So we want to make sure that we're delivering value from that very beginning point. and that we add value throughout the entire process for our prospects and for our eventual customers. So it's really taking a strategy like account-based and boiling down the tactics that you want to do for each piece of the buyer's journey. So at the education stage, what are the personas that are involved? That'll help you align the kind of demand generation tactics at that stage that you want to use to push that through the funnel. There's a account-based has a beautiful way of taking strategy and being able to align and generate tactics, so you really have a clear direction of what you need to do at each stage from a marketing perspective. How many emails and phone calls does it take to usually open an opportunity from a sales development perspective? Analyzing that and then mapping that across the journey together, removing that handoff conversation, that's account-based orchestration. So how are your marketing and salespeople dedicating their time and budget to accelerating those deals? What doesn't change? Marketers are marketing, salespeople are selling, and customer success is successing. Now they're delighting customers, and hopefully helping them to be onboarded, implemented, adopt, and renew. A few things about orchestration that make it really key to be successful with it. In terms of, these are kind of some of the learnings that we've had as we've deployed orchestration. Number one, visualize it. Most of the people that I know in marketing and sales and executives, they like pictures. They're easier to digest, they're easier to socialize. Diagrams, high-level visualization of engagement across those departments. So no matter who you are, if you actually ask, what does account-based mean for what our marketing team's doing or for what our sales team's doing, you have that high-level visualization that you can rely on and really dig into to be able to show this is exactly what's happening throughout the buyer's journey for marketing, for sales development. This is when success comes in, and this is what we're doing for each persona. So really taking the time to visualize that, socialize it, and get the buy-in cross-functionally. Aligning with sales, and this isn't a set it and forget it thing. This is not a not just something where they can sign off on an account-based SLA, for instance, or just sign off on specific tactics. You need to meet regularly. We meet on a bi-weekly basis with our partners in sales development and our inbound teams to be able to make sure that we are sharing those performance metrics. Frankly, that the sales development team is working the target accounts that we as marketers are marketing to. And that's the simple alignment that we're looking for. We're looking for just the alignment at that account level. And even digging deeper as you get to success with aligning on accounts, aligning on those personas and those kind of quality leads that you want to come see. Because leads still happen in account-based, but there's no handoff and they're just a part of an overall engagement process. And customer-centric, keep it customer-centric. Again, I like to hammer this through a lot, partially because of the culture and the viewpoint we have toward the market at SalesLoft, but don't resort to the same old volume of sales and marketing activities. Don't put your target account list into your marketing automation system and do a gigantic email blast. That's probably not the best way to go about it, even if all your sales development folks are calling behind it. Really try to hone in on the key people that you want to engage with at these target accounts. Hone in on the people that are on the opportunity so you can influence them to speed things through the funnel. Don't fall victim to volume. We've all been there. Eric put it best. He's been doing this way too long. I've been doing it way too long too. I fell victim to that, I think, early in my career, just like a lot of entry-level marketers did. But the game has changed, and people, the way that people buy has changed, and the way that people read their inboxes is different, and there's a higher standard out there for engagement. So make sure you keep your orchestrated activities to that high standard. And when I talk about, kind of meeting on a regular basis, what are the things that you want to talk about as marketers and salespeople together to make sure? So I talked about target account pipeline, that combined contribution. Without sales and marketing, there is no pipeline to open or close, so that's always important. I won't belabor that too much more, but sales activities on target accounts and marketing coverage. So sales activities on target accounts, A great way to start measuring this is just start measuring the emails and calls that you have. Having a sales engagement platform like SalesLoft makes it a lot easier to pipe this data into your CRM and report on it. And there's also some native reporting functionality as well, but we still like to use Salesforce as that one source of truth just because you can unify all your tools and all of your data in there. But bring in email and call data from your sales engagement platform. And if you can get to measuring contact persona coverage, if you have that level of sophistication, you know who you need to be engaging with. That's another way to measure, are they reaching out to the right people? And then marketing coverage and influence. So if sales is selling into it, you should be marketing before and during and after that process conditionally. So a good start is measuring the percentage of total target account pipeline that is touched by marketing. So that's not, for instance, a marketing contribution metric as much as it is a marketing and sales alignment metric. And that's really the name of the game. You're going to get a lot more out of your marketing and sales activities by just marketing and selling to those same accounts. So these are three kind of introductory ways that you can start to measure from both the marketing and sales perspective is account-based working. One of the products that we actually use to measure is actually the Terminus Account Hub, formerly BrightFunnel. And again, visualization. They have this great tool, and I think Engagio has other functions like this. There's a number of other tools as well. But this is a really slick way in Terminus to look at the lifetime of an opportunity and how marketing is contributed. So here is a high-level opportunity. You can see on this graph to the left the number of engagements. So that first interaction was recorded in Salesforce July of 2016. Opportunity created looks like about January of the next year. And all those dots indicate a marketing engagement on an opportunity. So looking at those orange dots are actually points of engagement with contacts that are on the opportunity with those marketing campaigns. So you can see that not only have we pulled in this opportunity from a combination of marketing and sales development effort, but we are reaching, you can see Jane Smith, Sales Operations Director right there. We're getting in touch with the key personas that we need to throughout the deal and reaching those contacts through multiple channels. So over the lifetime of this deal, multiple ebooks, events, organic website form fills, our direct mail journey campaign, which was awesome, which was a multi-channel direct mail and digital campaign that we used to show kind of the buyer's journey to our target accounts and how we do that process. So visualizing the impact is really awesome, and this has been a really helpful tool. No matter how you do it, being able to, at the end of the deal and after you hear the sales bell, say, hey, this is how marketing contributed, and layering the sales data over and seeing that great sales and marketing coordinated and orchestrated execution, that'll be really helpful for you. That's all for me. I think we probably would toss it back over to Christina now, but connect with me, continue the conversation, and look forward to talking account-based with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric and Eric.